Happy New Year, son.
Happy New Year.
Our first podcast of 2025. It's funny, the season always seems so long. And then when it's over, it's like, man, it's such a long time in between. I don't know what that is. But maybe this is the best time when there's no races, because this is when all the rumors start percolating. We get all the news. So, all right, you ready to go, son?
I'm ready to go.
Hello, welcome to Hard Compound, American take on Formula One. No race this weekend, no race last weekend, no race in more than a month. But lots going on. All the rumors, all the news, rumors of news. So let's quick recap 2024. That was a great year. We had Max winning it, his fourth, but he had to fight off a challenge from Lando Norris, who was looking ready to take it all. We had 7 different winners. We didn't know who was going to win the constructors until the final race. McLaren pulled it out against Ferrari. Now the news continues. All right, son, why don't we, some of these bigger stories, we'll just go through them one by one. Let me get your reaction. Late in the year, Haas surprised everybody by signing a deal with Toyota. And people are like, wait, what is this? And Toyota said, no, it's just our racing group. We're going to be a sponsor. We're going to offer some technical details. But everyone was like, no, Toyota's not getting in to be a sponsor of Haas. Something bigger is underfoot. So I'm going to get your thoughts real quick on that. Do we think Toyota is going to try to enter F1 as a works team, as a constructor, just having a car there, and when?
Yeah, I think it's very possible. I think it's a lot easier to enter through kind of an already present team than trying to buy your way into the sport, as we found out with GM. And they're kind of noticing that a lot of these other manufacturers are getting into the sport or already in the sport. So I think they're looking at Formula One as a way to grow their brand and show how good their engineering is and that kind of thing. They compete in a lot of the same motorsport series that Cadillac does. They're already involved in things like NASCAR, the World Endurance Championship, which Cadillac competes in. And so I do kind of expect them to get into at least becoming a power unit supplier. They're kind of, the world's leading hybrid manufacturer at this point. So they have a lot of experience with that. Like I mentioned, they compete in the World Endurance Championship with a hybrid hypercar. So I think they're kind of well suited to developing that sort of technology for F1. And, I think kind of the easiest in they have is through Haas, at least at the moment. So I see that kind of becoming a bigger partnership than they sort of originally suggested.
Yeah, I saw something recently. Toto Wolff said GM Cadillac putting up $400 million to enter was not enough.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But it just shows you how much money, because he can make that case. It just goes to show you how much money now is flowing through F1. And you look at it, we will very soon have Ferrari, Mercedes, Honda. We'll soon have GM Cadillac. They intend to get in there. We'll have Audi coming in. So you can definitely see, like you said, the leading manufacturer worldwide of hybrid engines. This is a natural. And if Toto is correct in the $450 million just to enter is not enough, considering to be a full works team, you're dropping $1 billion plus. Ultimately, buying Haas seems like a wise decision for Toyota. Now, I mentioned GM Cadillac. A lot of rumors going around because they intend to enter first with a team, a car, then ultimately as a works team. But all the rumors about who they're going to have as their driver. Some folks suggesting Bottas, some folks suggesting Sergio Perez. I see almost no upside to getting these older guys who were fine drivers, but nothing special. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems weird. Like those are these sort of almost safe picks. We're just going to have this guy. He's been in Formula One and people know him. So, nothing too crazy is going to happen. they'll give us at least a decent showing and not do anything too crazy in our first couple of seasons in the sport. But yeah, I'm with you. That's ridiculous. You're buying your way into the sport, trying to make a big splash. Perez is whatever. We saw, he's acceptable, but he's really not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
Bottas, kind of the same. I mean, he almost seems like he didn't want to be in the sport anyways. So what is the point in having guys who are frankly not going to sort of carry your brand or, promote that in any way and are going to be at most fair drivers? There's no upside on the track or off the track for those to happen.
Yeah, I think of Perez and even Daniel Ricciardo. It's like, even at their best, they were never great drivers. They were good drivers, and they're no longer at their best. But they have some bit of marketing presence in the United States. Bottas does not. But I also feel that even if you go with a safe pick, you can have one safe pick. I think there's almost a moral obligation to have an American driver in here, even if that means taking somebody from Indy. So I'm with you. I think the names that get thrown about, Bottas, Ricciardo, Sergio Perez, I don't see those happening. Well, speaking of drivers, 2025, we're going to have a lot of young drivers, a lot of new drivers. That's going to be exciting. Alpine, when they unceremoniously fired Esteban Ocon, they waited, but they replaced him with their reserve driver, Jack Doohan. And everyone says he's a nice kid, good driver, but nothing special. No, that Alpine car is nothing special. But according to rumors, soon after signing him as their driver alongside Pierre Gasly, they went and paid millions of dollars to Williams to get their reserve driver, Franco Colapinto, and then signed him to a multi-year deal as a reserve driver. It's like, to me, you don't sign a reserve driver for multi-millions for years. I mean, I'm thinking Doohan. I mean, does he even get till the summer?
Yeah, that's a weird situation. I think Alpine is probably the worst run team in F1 at this point. And they consistently make ridiculous decisions. Seems like they saw one race from Colapinto and decided, all right, if Doohan doesn't do that in his first race, then he's our guy. We're going with Colapinto. And it's like, I don't know, why not give him at least half the season, right? The first half of the season, see how Doohan does, and we'll see. But I'm kind of with you, given this sort of uncertainty and teams move on from drivers seemingly very quickly, to bring in somebody for millions of dollars, it doesn't look great for the drivers that are there, especially Doohan. Obviously coming in, he's going to have to really prove something to that team. And I think he's going to have to outpace Gasly pretty much right from the start in order to keep his seat.
Yeah, that seems a tall order, I think. I mean, Gasly's been there for years. And, it's a tough sport. And I think Alpine was like, hey, he's been good for us. He's done everything we've asked for him. He's a good driver. We'll give him a shot. But like you're saying, that's not much of a shot if you go right away and sign somebody. Potentially, when all is said and done, if they actually did have to give millions to Williams, they're ultimately paying more for their reserve driver than their driver. So I think Doohan realizes he's got a very short leash.
Seems weird, too, because as much as Colapinto was impressive in a couple of races at the end of the season there for Williams, I mean, he struggled a fair bit, not only to keep up with Albon, but also he struggled with controlling the car at all. Had a number of incidents, crashes. I just don't see why you would immediately try to replace a rookie driver with what amounts to another rookie driver that has kind of proven to be a little bit erratic.
Speaking of F1 and drivers, there's a lot of former F1 drivers in Indy, and Indy is having a bit of a moment right now. Fox bought the rights. They're spending a lot of money. they made a surprise move in getting Will Buxton, the F1 TV commentator from F1, and he's now going to lead Indy races here in the US. We've talked about Indy a lot because it's sort of undervalued. A lot of F1 fans could say, well, it's a step below. Well, fair enough. But I think F2 is a step below. World Endurance is a step below. These are fast cars. On track, they go faster than F1. There's a lot of variety of different courses, a lot of drivers from a lot of different backgrounds. It's fun to watch. And I'm almost wondering if Fox is going to use this as a bit of a stepping stone into F1. Right now, the only way to see F1, if you're not a subscriber, is on ESPN, which most people don't have. Like, for example, I don't have it. But Fox is a broadcast network. They get really good ratings for NASCAR. They're really trying to juice up the Indy ratings. I don't know. We might soon see, and nobody, I think, does a good pre-race show, even just for most sports. Their commentary, their pre-game efforts, they're top-notch. So maybe we're going to soon see Fox get into broadcasting F1.
It would be really interesting. I think it would certainly grow the sport in the States, given that more people would be able to view it. And, they, like you were saying, they have a lot of good pre-race or pre-game shows that allow people to kind of enjoy and learn about the sport. And they get sort of the inside scoop, especially from either former drivers or players, that kind of thing. So it would be interesting. I think it would take a lot to kind of wrestle away F1 from ESPN, which is, owned by Disney, this major player in streaming and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see if they can get into it. I think it would be a lot of fun, really interesting, just sort of pre-race and post-race. Even during the race, they can do a lot of different things. Right now, ESPN's just utilizing the Sky broadcast. So maybe we can have our own, American broadcast of the sport. That would be kind of nice to see, I think.
Yeah, and Fox, like I said, I think Fox does a great job. And they build a lot of content around the race, around the game. Like for football, there's a pregame show. There's commentating during, after, a 3-hour football game or a 2-hour race. They'll turn that into 10 hours of content. And but they actually, I think, do a really good job. Whereas with ESPN, which is how we see it here in America, most of us, they just on occasion will have the Sky Sports pre-race show, then the Sky Sports feed of the race, and that's it. So I think this, I don't know, I think it's a bit of an opportunity. I also just think, F1's impact, not just in America, its popularity is growing here, but I think we're seeing like a rising cultural impact. I think it's Ferrari's chairman was appointed to the Meta board, and Meta is essentially the rubber stamp board for Facebook. But that's the world's largest social media platform, I believe. So that's a lot of cultural power.
Yeah, it's interesting to see stuff like that. I think, we're seeing a big sort of rise in brand power. And I think, that kind of goes back to our discussion about who Cadillac might bring in as their drivers, because ultimately these F1 teams are there mostly to enhance their overall brand. And I think, Ferrari is kind of the premier brand in F1, and you see that with their chairman kind of appointed to the Meta board. But I think we'll see a lot more stuff like that. I have to imagine that GM Cadillac will want to get involved in those types of things. Maybe, get cushy with Elon Musk or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of opportunity there for F1 to have kind of more impact, especially in the States.
Everybody's looking to make money, and it seems like one of the best ways this day and age. It's content and influencers, and F1 definitely has that. Oh, speaking of Ferrari, something interesting is, so I think it was Aston, which had a miserable season, demoted. I don't know what you want to call it, but Mike Crack he's out. He's no longer team principal. He's doing something. And that means like Fred Vasseur, he's now one of the longest serving team principals at Ferrari. And you're like, wait, that can't be possible. He's just there a couple years ago. It's like, no, it's like, because you've got Christian Horner, obviously total wolf. But then I think it might be Fred Vasseur, I forget who's there at McLaren. Is that Stella? I don't know. But James Vowles been there a couple years at Williams. So, but that's amazing. I mean, man, talk about a short shelf life.
Yeah, lots of turnover, and you're only as good as your last race, your last season. So, we've seen a lot of guys who I think, some are a little bit more reserved, some are more kind of into the whole limelight. We saw Günther Steiner really try to play up his role, and I know it's hard at Haas, but he eventually got the boot. You see even, what's his name, from Ferrari before Vasseur, he did fine and he was okay, but not up to the standards that Ferrari wanted. So he got booted and now he's going to Audi.
Yeah, a bit Audi.
But yeah, it's tough unless you are kind of highly competitive, especially in sort of the group that you're in, whether that's the top tier, the top echelon, maybe the top 4 teams, or you're competing for the top mid-pack teams, right? 5 through 7. If you're not at the top of that, you get 1, maybe 2 years to turn the team around, and that's a tall order. You have to make sure the right people are in place, the right decisions are being made, and kind of the overall structure and character of the team is going well. For Ferrari and Fred Vasseur, he's done a really good job of getting Ferrari back to that sort of competitive nature. He brought in Lewis Hamilton, he's made some interesting and kind of big moves, and it's moved the team in the right direction, I think. So it's not surprising that he's still there. It is a little surprising that, I think it's only been 2, maybe 3 years is, one of the top 4 longest serving team principals. So yeah, it's a crazy sport, lots of turnover.
All right, switching to the soft compound. Max Verstappen won his 4th world championship this past year. And this year he's going to be a father, an actual father, 27. Now, I know he's been dating someone and he's sort of a pseudo stepdad to her little girl. It's weird though. He's 4-time F1 world champion. He's been in the sport damn near a decade, it seems like, at age 27. But he always just seems like a little kid. He always those little tantrums, plays video games all through the night. It's going to be weird seeing him. Do you think fatherhood's going to, well, of course fatherhood will change him, but do you think it will change him on the grid?
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. He's kind of goes into every race with a little bit of reckless abandon. And sort of the only thing he's there to do is win. And he gets mad if he doesn't win. And he is certainly one of the most competitive drivers on the grid. And I think he is one that does not back down from any challenge, which makes him a very good driver, obviously. But I think there might be some change to that mentality. F1 is one of the more dangerous sports in the world in the grand scheme of things. And, maybe there will be in the back of his head just a little bit of doubt or some pullback when he's going into these challenges. So we'll see. I don't know. It's an interesting thought how he might change on the grid.
Now, his father, former racer, Jos Verstappen, says Max is a role model for the next generation. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, I think there are plenty of role models out there, but I think that's a good one. I will say this, walking around America, I rarely see anybody with any F1 gear. But on the rare occasions I do, just to make that clear, 90% of it is Red Bull. And if I ever ask, and it's usually like a teenage boy or maybe early 20s at the oldest, and they're big Max Verstappen fans. Now, a lot of that's because he's young and he wins. So not surprised. But yeah, I can't disagree with Jos on that. I mean, I know he's talking up his son, but I will say this. Jos is always there. And it seems like he's always starting fights with Christian Horner, with the Red Bull team, with Helmut Marko, with others. And I used to think like, hey man, you may need to just leave the paddock, go, don't even show up at the races. But now I'm wondering, I see these shows on TV. It's like some young guy, young girl go to Hollywood and their lives are ruined. And I'm like, man, F1 is just this brutal sport. Maybe Jos, a former driver, knows he needs to be there. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think maybe. I think he might take some heat off of Max. So that is good because Max, like you said, is basically a kid. The only thing he ever thinks about is racing, seemingly. And he plays a lot of video games. And he stays up late before races playing video games. I mean, he's a winner, so that's good. But I think he is like a little bit of a kid most of the time. And so rather than having him deal directly with Christian Horner and Helmut Marko and kind of the sharks, so to speak, in Red Bull, his dad does all of that for him and takes a lot of that pressure and a lot of that heat off of him. So I think on the whole, probably it's actually been good for Max that Jos is there. And I think it must be more challenging for other guys, other drivers who don't have kind of that support system there with them.
Yeah, because, I mean, in the early days, Lewis Hamilton's dad was there. I'm not I don't think the constant nor the belligerent presence of Jos Verstappen, but he was there often. For years, Lewis had Angela with him, helping him out as his so-called personal trainer. But you wonder, like, was she doing a lot more? Really just sort of, shielding him from a lot of stuff and how necessary that is. It's kind of an interesting thought. Okay, F1 by the numbers. And I mean that literally. I think it was 2014 when F1 let drivers choose their own number. Although, damn, Alonso's been in the sport since, 2001? That must be weird. Being an F1 driver for 12, 13, 14 years and like, hey, this year you get to pick your own number. But I just thought it would be interesting to look at the numbers of all the new drivers coming into F1. And maybe we have thoughts about these, Patrick. I don't know. Maybe we have no thoughts about them whatsoever. So, Doohan at Alpine, we've already slandered the poor kid. He chose number 7. That's Kimi Räikkönen's number. I think that's going to be a hard number to live up to. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Kimi Räikkönen is a damn good driver, raced for a long time. He had held, I think, the record for like most laps or longest distance or most race starts or whatever until Alonso surpassed him this past year. And he is a former F1 champion. So he had quite an impressive career. Jack Doohan, I think, already on the hot seat, will have a tough time. But, maybe, just maybe, he might live up to it.
Let's see. Ollie Behrman, he's chose 87. There's been no previous holder of the number 87. So I think that's wise. I think you should try, unless you're George Russell, what is he, 6'3", where you can sort of have some designer sort of figure out how to make that into a GR. I think, 87, no one has had that previously. I think that's a wise choice.
Yeah, 87. I don't know. I feel like that'll look weird on the car, but, whatever.
Fair enough. All right, so Gabriel Bartoletto, he chose, wait, it was Seb's number. What was Seb's number? 5?
5, I think.
Okay, so he chose Sebastian Vettel. I would not have chosen a multi-champion winning number.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, it's hard to kind of say like, oh, this number you have to live up to whoever had it before you. But I think, sometimes you choose a number because that's your hero or your favorite driver or whatever. So maybe that's the case. Maybe he's just trying to get some good juju from Seb's number. I don't know. But it will be hard to kind of drive in the same way that Seb did, especially when he came into F1. I mean, he was just a monster.
Yeah.
When he first started driving. So,
and you can't choose number one. That actually does belong to Max, whoever is the current champion.
mm-hmm.
But I think if you're going to choose a number, if it were me, I don't know if I would choose someone who previously held that number, unless it was sort of an idol of mine when I finally came in. Or, maybe if they were born in February 02 or born in the 10th, 110, 10. Yeah, but some of these choices, I'm skeptical. So let's see, Isaac Hadjar. He has chosen number 6, which went to Nico Rosberg and also Nick Latifi.
Well, you got one champion and
one non-champion.
One, I don't know what to say.
He's certainly impacted championships. Both of those have impacted championships. We'll just say that.
Yeah,
number 6.
Yeah.
Kimi Antonelli to number 12. I don't know who was number 12 in the past. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody very important with number 12, but I don't know. Liam Lawson coming back. He chose number 30. I actually looked this one up. Julian Palmer, because, he does commentary for F1 TV. And he's a good guy. He came in with a bit of a flourish, then was kind of out of F1 a year or two. So I don't know. Maybe Liam Lawson is telling us something there with his subconsciously with his number choice. What do you think?
Maybe. We'll see. I think he's up to a tough task there at Red Bull this season. So, he may not get too many chances. I think Julian Palmer was sort of similar. I believe he drove for Renault for a while. But he is a good commentator. He knows racing quite well. I think he still races in other series as well. So even if Liam Lawson doesn't pan out in the long term in F1, he may still have a bright career ahead of him.
Any crazy predictions, Patrick?
I think that at least we were just talking about these new coming drivers. How many are there? There's like 6 of them, right? I think at least half of them will score more points than their teammate.
Wow. So like Hadjar, Bartoletto, you think?
Behrman. I think Behrman scores more than Ocon.
Wow.
I think Antonelli scores more than Russell.
No
That's
way.
That's my big. Ooh. There we go. That'll be my crazy prediction. And Kimi Antonelli comes in and immediately proves, actually, I'm the guy here. You thought George was going to be the guy. He's not.
Wow. I don't think that's going to happen, but I would like to see it happen just because that would just be amazing to see that. Yeah. I don't have any real driver predictions. I guess ever since Max arrived at Red Bull, basically he's devoured anybody in the other seat. And, that's a long list from Kvyat to Ricardo to Perez, Gasly. I mean, and the Racing Bulls team as well. I don't think that will happen to Liam Lawson. I think he will be a distant number 2, but I don't think it will be as bad as what we saw with Sergio this past year, and he will survive. If I have any crazy prediction, it is that not this season, but 2026, with the all new regulations, will be the craziest season in F1 in the 21st century. Let's not go back to the 50s or anything, or the early 70s, let's say. But this coming season, Max is going to make sure Red Bull has the best car possible. McLaren won the championship. They're going to be focused on their car. Ferrari just missed the championship. They're going to be focused. Mercedes wound up getting so much better to the point where I said they actually wound up with the 3rd best car of the year. They're going to be focused on winning the championship. You're going to have a bunch of other cars that aren't, and they're going to start working on 2026. Plus, there'll be new regulations. I think 2026 is going to be an absolute free-for-all.
Do you think we'll get a new champion? Like we've had the last 3 constructors champions, McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes. Will there be a new one in 2026?
In 2026, McLaren, Red Bull, Mercedes. Yes.
Maybe Ferrari, maybe
because Ferrari's right there.
else. Yeah.
Maybe Aston. They'll have Adrian Newey for a couple years. They're working with Honda. Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
All right. I want to thank you all for listening to everybody's most beloved father and son F1 podcast. It is much appreciated. Oh, quick shout out to Martin Brundle, the Sky commentator. He was awarded the OBE, which I believe is the British version of the Grammys. Or something a bit more important. And that's it. We are lights out.
See ya. Thanks for listening.
So I saw that 48 hours before the inauguration of a new president here in the United States, Patrick, that Donald Trump released a meme coin, which is basically a rich person's version of Patreon. It's like, hey, buy this coin. It's an investment. And its investment is when you buy it, I make money. If you sell it before everybody else sells theirs, you might make some money. But there's going to be a lot of people who's going to lose money. That's why I call it, rich people Patreon. But I actually think there's a real market for that. If you're a rich person and you're popular, influential, it's like, hey, give me more of your money. And that made me think, we're going to see more and more stars, celebrities, influencers release their own meme coin. What do you think? Now, I do this after the show because I'm not going to give investment advice, but I wonder who would have the biggest meme coin. Maybe Max, Lando, Lewis? What do we think? If an F1 driver came out with a meme coin, what do you think, Patrick?
Came out with a meme coin? I'm going to go with, what's Charles Leclerc's dog's name?
Oh,
that dog. He's going to have the best meme coin.
That is perfect. You just finished listening to Hard Compound, recorded in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and around the world.